The regulators are hammering over and over again the theme that Bitcoin is an asset without an issue where it's a commodity, and as the entire mainstream crypto community is, they see that Bitcoin is special. They will start to reorganize their portfolios and differentiate Bitcoin versus the securities. I think that's very auspicious, and I think that causes the mainstream investors as they start to see that Bitcoin is distancing itself. Like Bitcoin is going to be the last crypto asset standing in the US, and it's going to be the winner. And they're going to, right now, they're looking at this confusing situation. A year ago, it wasn't clear whether Terra or Luna, or this yo-yo coin, or that thing was the winner, and a lot of people even know the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. And I think right now there's a very expensive campaign being driven by the world to illustrate the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. 12 months from now, I think that most mainstream investors will have seen that Bitcoin is here and embraced, and a lot of the other things that were confusing, that had a bad reputation, have been diminished or exited the market. So, I think the emergence of Bitcoin as the king crypto commodity, I think will also cause the acceleration of institutional investors and also the acceleration of corporate adoption. Michael Saylor is truly the king of Bitcoin, first investing in 2020 when he sold the inevitable destruction or value of the cash held on his company's balance sheet. Saylor has continued investing all of MicroStrategy's free cash flow into Bitcoin ever since. On top of this, during periods of time in which MicroStrategy stock is selling at a premium, Saylor will sell off company stock to reinvest into Bitcoin. With his company going even one step further and taking on debt and loans to purchase even more Bitcoin, it's suffice to say that Saylor has 100% conviction in Bitcoin, and this doesn't translate whatsoever into any other cryptocurrency at all, in particular Etherum. Speaking at the Bitcoin 2023 conference, Saylor made a huge point on why there is no second best cryptocurrency in comparison to Bitcoin, and why he also gave out a stark warning to any investors looking to make higher returns in other coins outside of BTC. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Saylor gives 3 reasons he believes Bitcoin is king, and why institutions are only going to be lining up to buy Bitcoin and not Ethereum. Also, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free, and you can always change your mind. It's $500 million is never going to be worth more than $500 million. You're not going to get a 30% return on $500 million, right? So, the cash, the conventional treasury strategy on a balance sheet. Man, your balance sheet is a liability, and your P&L has to grow faster than the monetary inflation rate. So, I think of it as everybody's got a left arm and a right arm. And when your balance sheet is weighed down with cash or sovereign debt, it's like putting your right arm behind your back, and you're just fighting with your left arm. And it's really, really hard. And so, the company, and then when the Federal Reserve raises the monetary inflation rate from 5% to 15%, every company fighting with one hand has got to grow 25%. And they're trying hard, and they're reaching beyond their fingertips. And when they fail, they crash and burn. And it might be even worse. They might actually say that $500 million is a liability. So, I'm going to give it all back to the shareholders. I'm going to borrow $1 billion. I'll go to negative working capital. And then, not only are they fighting with one hand behind their back, but they have a $2 billion weight around their neck. And that's why all these indebted companies fail in an inflationary environment. So, when we discovered Bitcoin, we said, well, we're not going to leave the right arm behind our back. We're going to turn the $500 million of liability into $500 million of an asset. The long story short is we went from $500 million of a liability yielding nothing to today. We have 140,000 Bitcoin, which is $4 billion plus. And so we are able to convert our balance sheet from nothing or a liability into an asset. And once we did that, we provided our shareholders with a benefit. Because if you wanted to actually buy 10,000 acres of timber, you would buy a company to invest in timber. And if you wanted to buy oil tankers, you would buy a company invested in oil tankers. And if you wanted to buy Bitcoin and you only had 30 seconds, and you wanted $10 million of Bitcoin, and you're a hedge fund, you pick up the phone, you say, buy me MicroStrategy, because I know they're backed by Bitcoin. And so we provided an on-ramp for institutional capital that allowed them to buy some Bitcoin exposure quick and easy. Without the alternative, it would be 3 to 5 years of vetting and stress and communications. And so we let them do it in 3 minutes. What would take 3 years? So that was our transition, and over the last 2.5 years, we transitioned from a company with a $600 million enterprise value that was growing fairly conservatively in a very mature business to a company with a $6.5 billion enterprise value, so 10x. That has been growing steadily, throwing off cash flow conservatively. But we, and this is stage 2, I'll get to stage 3, showed the world that you don't have to grow 20% a year on the top line to not have to wind down the business, right? 98% of companies can't grow 25% top line. If I told all of you, if your salary doesn't go up 20% a year, you're going to fail, and then you all of a sudden have to do that 3-4 years in a row, you're going to have a lot of stress with your customers or your boss or your organization. And so I think that the fiat world without Bitcoin on your balance sheet forces people to try too hard to grow, and the result is they take risk that blows up in their face, or they do bad acquisitions, or eventually they don't quite hit the growth target, and then their stock crashes and the business gets sold off, and the result is a 99% mortality rate. So stage 2 was us using our balance sheet to show that it's okay to have a low-growth business as long as you have a high-growth balance sheet. Stage 3 is us putting Bitcoin and Lightning into our product offering to offer to our customers. So true innovation, so that we can drive our revenues up and so we can drive our cash flows up and begin to grow much more rapidly than we have in the past. And so ultimately, the business is all about occasionally selling equity when it's creative to buy Bitcoin, occasionally issuing debt when it's accretive to buy Bitcoin, always sweeping our cash flows into Bitcoin, and now we focus on using Bitcoin and Lightning and other apps to grow our cash flows to buy more Bitcoin. And if we actually sweep, if we keep innovating on the P&L side, then I think our growth rate will continue to drive our revenues north over the next decade. But we'll get a double benefit because we're reinvesting our cash flows into Bitcoin, and we're getting the back-end appreciation in our balance sheet. Such that today, if we have 140,000 Bitcoin when Bitcoin moves $1,000, we have $140 million of investment appreciation, which is equivalent to 3 years of after-tax cash flow of 2,000 people working as hard as they can. And so we have managed to fix the business with Bitcoin. There's some great milestones coming. I think the FASB accounting of rendering Bitcoin indefinite intangible has been toxic for conventional CFOs, because if they bought $20 billion of Bitcoin, they could never realize an investment gain, only investment loss. So the current move toward fair value accounting that's being pursued by FASB is very bullish and auspicious. The first milestone will be the adoption of fair value accounting for Bitcoin sometime in the future. The second milestone is the regulators hammering over and over again the theme that Bitcoin is an asset without an issue, where it's a commodity. As the entire mainstream crypto community sees that Bitcoin is special, they will start to reorganize their portfolios and differentiate Bitcoin versus the securities. I think that's very auspicious, and I think that causes the mainstream investors, as they start to see that Bitcoin is distancing itself, like Bitcoin is going to be the last crypto asset standing in the US, and it's going to be the winner. Right now, they're looking at this confusing situation. A year ago, it wasn't clear whether Terra or Luna, or this yo-yo coin, or that thing was the winner, and a lot of people didn't even know the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. I think right now there's a very expensive campaign being driven by the world to illustrate the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. 12 months from now, I think that most mainstream investors will have seen that Bitcoin is here and embraced, and a lot of the other things that were confusing that had a bad reputation have been diminished or exited the market. So I think the emergence of Bitcoin as the king crypto commodity will also cause the acceleration of institutional investors and also the acceleration of corporate adoption. The third thing I really should say this right. The first is the accounting, the second is the asset designation, and the third is the emergence of Bitcoin applications on the layer 2s and the layer 3s, the Lightning applications, even all cybersecurity applications, national security applications, and payment applications. All of those are attracting a new class of technology investors. They know how to buy Google. They know how to buy Facebook and Apple. They see Bitcoin as the emergent technology network and the most secure database and the most secure network. You're going to want to own a piece of that if you're a technology investor, and I think that will open the way for lots of corporate adoption. So there's Michael Saylor on why Bitcoin is the king of all crypto, and why he thinks over the next 12 months Bitcoin will emerge as the true winner in the crypto economy. With ongoing talks of regulation regarding Ethereum being a security or being a commodity, his warning may turn out to be true. However, since its inception, Ethereum, the second top crypto asset, has outperformed Bitcoin over time, and with a successful merge, the reduced supply combined with potential yield coming from Ethereum does make it an enticing investment option. But what do you guys think? Is Saylor right to be betting it all on Bitcoin, or is he letting his judgment be clouded in his refusal to look at anything else in the crypto space? Let me know in the comments. Anyway guys, hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always, all the best.